Okay, welcome back everybody. Today we are going to show you how to fabricate and design the 90-degree elbow with a curved throat and a curved back or heel as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. This basically just states that we're going to grade it to plus or minus 1/8 of an inch. With that, the next page just gives you a general overview and some layout of that particular project there and how it's going to go. And then I'm going to get right into the dimensions that we're going to look at on this page here. So when I look at it, I've noticed it's just a radius throat with a radius back, nothing real complicated. Both of the openings are exactly the same, so we don't really necessarily have to worry about making a left and a right because they're consistent. We can just give one a quarter turn and we'll have your left or your right, so that works nice. But first things first, we got to cut our dimensions, figure out the width and the height of the piece here. So if we look at our dimensions across the bottom and across the top, we'll notice that I've got a 1/4 inch for the lock form up here, and then the 10-inch takes over. There's a 1/4 inch here, but that's not included for this part of the measurement. And then there's 4 inches plus a half. So the total height I've got is 10 and 4 is 14, plus a half plus a 1/4 at the top there, or 14 and 3/4. And the same down the sides there. Got our 10 inches, our 4 inches, plus the half, which again, that 1/2 inch, it's just indication marks where the lock form or your, not the lock form, your S-clip and your drives are going to slip on there and be bent later on there with that. So we're looking at 10, 4, a half, and a 1/4 for the outside, or again, 14 and 3/4. So I went over to the square inch here and I cut two pieces, a left and a right, because there's two required for this section. So slide that out of the way, and you'll notice that I've cut a 14 and 3/4 by a 14 and 3/4 inch section, two of them, and this one's already finished over here on the left with that. And I'll show you how I did that, how I got this laid out to cut these two sections out of it to come up with that elbow as needed. So here we go, back to the plan. I'll set this down for a second. The first thing I looked at on the bottom is it said, draw a 1/2 inch mark on the bottom in the right side. I'm going to make a mirror image of it for the left. So I took my scribe here, found my 1/2 inch mark, and I ran that across the base, as well as in this setup, the left side, which in the book is the right. After I did that, I found this point right here, which is a crosshair of the 1/2 inch. With that complete, the next thing that I had to determine was the width of my radius for my throat, which was 4.5 inches from the end to the inside 1/4 inch bend, or the fitting side of the bend. So I had to take into account that 1/4 inch on both directions. So I simply measured it with my scribe. Remember, I'm going backwards here. So we've got 4.5 inches to the inside of the bend, and I put the little mark there with that. And then I'm going to back off a 1/4 inch and put one more mark on there at 4.25. That gives me these two radius dimensions right here. From that point, the inside 1/4 inch point, or rather the 4.5 from the edge of the sheet, to here, we need a 10-inch opening. So we can verify that, or we can measure it first of all. We can simply add it up. 4.5 plus 10 is 14.5 inches. Way out here, 14.5 inches. And then we need an additional 1/4 inch for the outside external lock form. So 14 and 3/4 on that piece. And then we'll verify that we do have a true 10-inch opening between points. So if we go right here, not the 1/4 inch, but well, I guess you can call it the 1/4, but the inner 1/4 inch to the inner 1/4 inch marks on this plate, and we should come right up with 10 inches of opening, and it does. So now that I've got my marks in place on the side, I can go at this a couple different methods. I can either use my notcher, and I can notch them out. I can notch them quarters all out where they belong and use the point, or I can go right to my dividers and set it. So I like to use a point here that works well with the dividers. So this project does have the 1/2 inch square, so I'm just going to set my point on that 1/2 inch mark. And I took my scratch awl here and just put a small divot right on that 1/2 inch crosshair there. At that point, I know from here to here has got to be 4 inches. So you can take your tape measure or a ruler or whatever and set that up for 4 inches, so you can lock it if you like. Lock it in there at 4 inches right on the button. I know it takes a little bit of effort to do this. Or you can use your square. That works really well for these small ones. And use the burn one method. So set it on the inch, which would be on a 5 here for a 4 inch. And now we've got our square set up and ready to go to make that first radius. So we'll set it on the divot at 4 inches, which is the inner, notice it's the inner 1/4 inch radius. And we'll set it there and we'll run that around. And you can make the other half on the left hand piece as well at the same time if you like. And then I adjust it by a 1/4 inch. I make it a 1/4 inch smaller. So again, I'll just set it 1 inch here, and rather than 5, now we're down to 4 3/4 to reduce it by a 1/4 inch. We'll lay it down there and we'll make that inner 1/4 inch mark there as well. So that's these two radius marks here. You could put your dividers right out on the outside, but I think it's hard to keep everything from, falling off the sheet. So I just move it in a 1/2 inch and use that, and then I'll just stop my radius a 1/2 inch short from the edge, being that's being cut out anyway. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure the distance to our outer radius marks. Remember, everything is bent on this project from here. There's no straight section or anything like that we have to worry about. So from our radius mark to here, we'll set that on the project and we'll pull that around again. So here we go. So we'll just set it out here, move that way out to the dimension. You can also set it with your tape measure if you like. I've got marks on the sheet from preparing for this. And then once you get it set, it can be kind of tedious. You got it set, you'll run that mark all the way around to the other side as well, and do it on the other sheet, and then extend it by a 1/4 inch for that last section there, which should pretty well come right out on the edge of the sheet, and then bring that one around also, all the way with them. And that'll conclude the radius marks for the project. So then you can put your dividers away. I recommend doing, when you set these up, I recommend marking the left and the right hand sheet at the exact same time, so they're exactly the same distances, versus one being, maybe a 32nd shy or a 16th shy or something like that, or over by the time you get it done. So at this point in time, we can notch it, or we can just go right to cutting it out. So let's go ahead and notch these on our marks, which is here and here for that, and then the outer marks. 3/4 inch depth. We'll give it a turn here. We'll do the same down here. And that one actually came out where the sheet was just a little bit long, but it's no big deal considering it was laying in the scrap bin. We'll just cut it off later. Okay, at this point in time, I'm going to cut my radius marks, being very, very careful not to cut on the inside ones because we need that additional 1/4 inch for our lock form. So with your tin snips, we're just going to follow them around there, just like when we were in grade school cutting paper. Being very careful not to get poked in the finger by this tail over here. We'll pull this up and around. Sometimes you got to pull it, help it along, and pick it up too. Like I say, if they get on the road, just go ahead and bend them up out of the road. pays to take a little time here and make a nice cut as well. The smoother you are here, the better it'll go when you run it through your easy edger, which is next. Sorry, I don't know if you can see that or not. Okay, there's that section. We'll pitch it right into the trash. Okay, the next thing for us to do then is to cut out the inside section. So on the smaller one, we're going to make sure we save that 1/4 inch to the outside line there. Oops, I want my other snips. If you don't know, I'm left-handed already. Okay, now that we got those sections out, we can toss them. We're just about wrapped up here with our marks. We're just going to relieve these notches out of here so there's no sharp points. A couple degrees back from straight with them. Continuing around the project. Okay, at that point we've got our left or right, or however you want to look at it there. We've got the 10-inch opening with our 4.5 inch throat and our 10-inch opening as well. So we're ready to run it through our easy edger. So again, just like on the previous projects, we're just going to set it in our starting groove there, 1/4 inch depth, and we're going to bend that down. This will be a little bit different from the other projects because the other ones we were doing the outside. This one I'm doing the inside. Everything else is pretty well the same. You know, you just start it with a small amount of tension and then try to run it with this ridge on that ridge, or that edge of the sheet on the upper ridge of the wheel there, and open that up. So again, if you need it tighter, you just move your sheet up or down to make it where you need it to be. So being patient here, crank it slow, and it should turn out to about, I don't know, maybe a 45 or maybe a little more than that. And this one's almost to a 90 already. And then, but I see that it's a little bit shy of a 1/4 inch, so we're going to try and tighten that up. And I don't know if you can tell it, but you can see the 1/4 inch mark in the bottom of the sheet there. Now I'm going to follow the center point of this wheel, pull it in, and see if I can stretch that with a little more extra tension on there as well. So watching the line in the bottom, we're going to try to run that through. That looks a little bit tight there. And we're going to pull that into the 1/4 inch mark. It should make a nice round radius. And you can see this little gap from the point up in here. And let me see if I can point this out to you. We got a point up here where we cut it, and the bend is down here. We're going to try to pull that right in so our sheet, it ends up as a true 10 inches. So we're just going to do that by putting the extra tension on the easy edger in the right direction. Looks like I could have done a little more, so I'm going to hit it one more time. Just run it around there. Just trying to stretch that in where it belongs. Pulling that in. And it should, that's quite a bit better. That landed right on that edge there. Then we'll do the same to the outside. Bend it down, make our start, and go ahead and run that through on the outer edge. Trying to maintain that little rib there for you. See how I was getting off there, so I got to put a little more downward tension on the sheet, and then just kind of crank that through until it comes out just the way you want it to. There was, see, it's a little bit over. You can see how it was starting to pull up, so I'm going to push the sheet ahead just a little bit and then bring it back around right where it needs to be. Again, watching the corners to bring them out right on that 10-inch mark. And if you need to, you can always run it through again and stretch it in or out according to your needs. Okay, with that, we've got the left hand and the right hand cheek complete. with the sections that we've already cut out of it. Okay, this one I'll edge in just a little bit, but then we'll have that left and right all done. And I'll see you back on the next video I'm going to make is building or fabricating the throat and fabricating the heel of the project.